If you experience a clog with your Robo E4 Pro printer, there are a few different things to do to troubleshoot this. The first and easiest one is to simply make sure that the printer temperature matches the spool of filament you are using. So be sure to Google and look up the preferred temperature for that specific type of filament as well as that brand of filament, as there are some differences even within certain types of plastic. Once you make sure that your preferred filament temperature matches your extruder temperature, you can attempt to load your filament at that temperature. To do so, click on the filament icon in the bottom toolbar. Click Load, and it will ask you to either select from one of the preset materials here, or you can click Custom if none of those options match the temperature you are looking to match. Once you've got your temperature set, click OK, and it will preheat the printer to that amount. If simply changing the temperature solved your issue, congratulations on clearing your clog. However, if it didn't, there are a few additional steps you can try to troubleshoot this. The next troubleshooting step will be to click on the thermometer icon in the bottom center of your 3D printer screen and preheat your extruder to the temperature for your specific type of filament. While it's preheating, you can open the lid of your 3D printer and move your extruder to a location more in the middle, which will be easier to access. Use wire cutters to snip off the excess filament as shown here, so that you're only working with a little bit above the top of the extruder. Once it's fully preheated, take your needle nose pliers to grab the leftover filament and then push in on this button on the side. With that pushed in, manually grab the filament and push it down into the extruder. If it won't budge, try pulling up. This may clear your jam. If it doesn't, however, there are additional troubleshooting steps you can continue with. Grab the unclogging tool that came with your 3D printer and use it to push through the extruder and hopefully push the clogged filament out of the other side. If, however, that still won't budge, you can increase its odds of success by using a lighter and heating the end of it so that you have heat coming from both sides, from the extruder as well as from the unclogging tool. And then insert it into the extruder the same as before, and this may clear some of your clogs. If unfortunately that was not enough to clear your clog, you will have to replace either the hot end down here or the full extruder assembly. The full extruder assembly is a little easier to replace, but a more expensive spare part. So we recommend trying to start with replacing the hot end itself, as that is what comes included with your printer when you purchase it. To replace just the hot end, you will need a 8mm ratchet, as well as a pair of pliers or 2 sets of pliers. The 8mm ratchet head can slide right over the top of the hot end, while the pliers can hold the base in place. Simply rotate the hot end to remove it. You want to make sure that you don't over-stress this, or you may snap the hot end into 2 pieces. So be careful applying too much force when attempting to loosen the hot end from the extruder assembly. Unscrew it and replace with the spare that came with your 3D printer. If you find you need to replace the entire extruder assembly, on the other hand, use the Allen wrench that came with your 3D printer and loosen the 2 screws on the right side of the extruder housing and the 1 screw on the left-hand side. Once they are loosened, you can pull this entire assembly cover forward and out of the way. With that removed, look for the silver set screw here and grab a pair of pliers. Hold the extruder assembly with the pliers while loosening the set screw. You can then pull the entire extruder assembly down and out of your 3D printer. You may have to wiggle it around just a little bit to get it out of the way of the fan. You are able to then replace it with a new extruder assembly simply by pushing it right back up into the opening where it came from. You technically do not need to remove that front black cover to do this, but I find it's helpful when I'm reinstalling it to have it out of the way just for better visibility of what I'm doing when I'm reattaching the set screw. Once it's in place, you can return the extruder housing to the extruder and then tighten the screws, the two on the right, the one on the left, and with your new extruder assembly, any clogs you had will be perfectly clear and you will be able to start printing again. Now, because you removed the extruder, you will need to power the printer off and back on to avoid an abnormal temperature error. Once you've done that, load filament and get back to printing. Thanks so much for watching.